Chat, because Boston has entered it. And we all know the story of Game 4, the injury status of Kristaps Porzingis. Well, here you go from the horse's mouth right on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you call it these days. Good dub tonight. D. White is special. Thanks for all the support. Will be good. Flexing on him. Great news, Kristaps Porzingis. And then, of course, the outpouring of support and sacrifice from the fans. Look at this. Take my calf, bruh. Do whatever you got to do to get back out there. Take my leg if you need. Take both. I'll deliver them to the Garden. This is why Boston sports is the best. I guarantee you no other fan base is sacrificing body parts to a star player like Boston is. And with that, welcome into Boston has entered the chat. Travis Thomas here. George Balekji, of course. I mean, hey, you know how we start? Every Boston has entered the chat. We get things off of our chest. Kristaps Porzingis got it off his chest that, hey, good win tonight. D. White special. I'll be fine. Everyone relax. What say you? What do you need to get off your chest? Because I see the wheels spinning for you.
You feel the skepticism coming from me
I
on
knew
my
something
end.
was coming.
We've seen too many calf injuries, whether it's calf strain, whether it's torn Achilles, affect stars across the NBA. And I'll say with Kristaps Porzingis, it was not a matter of if, but when he would get injured. And this has been his history. When Brad Stevens went out and traded for Kristaps Porzingis, we knew the ability he got with a 7'3" shooter, a guy that could protect the rim, score at all three levels. But you look at his history the past few seasons, 25 games missed this past regular season. 17 games missed the year before. 31 missed in 2021-2022. 39 games missed by Kristaps Porzingis in 2021. 25 games missed this season before. Brad Stevens went out and got Kristaps Porzingis and had to get rid of Marcus Smart to do so, but got a true big three here in Boston, giving Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown the prolific scorer they were missing, but a big that can get it done on both ends of the floor when it comes to rim protection. But this is what you get with a guy that is 7'3", an athletic unicorn, is the injury history. Imaging will be done Tuesday morning. The Celtics and KP will know more then. But best case scenario, this is a minor strain or just a sore calf. Worst case scenario, this could be something much more serious. This is a guy at his size with the demand on his body, both ends of the floor. Injuries can linger and become more. It's always been, can you win a title if Kristaps Porzingis is not in the picture? And there's only two people that hold the answer to that one. It's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And they need to find the answer soon, because even if Kristaps Porzingis comes back, he'll be playing a game almost every other day for the next month and a half. And the Jays are the only ones that can pull the Celtics out of this. They put all their chips in one pile to get Kristaps Porzingis, but still, this team goes as far as Jason Tatum will take them, and Jaylen Brown's going to have to pick up a lot of weight on this one too.
Ooh, coming in hot on a Boston has entered
I
the
said
chat.
it from the get. You know, we were giving grades. We were saying what this team's going to do, what are our predictions, and I couldn't give you anything with my full heart without saying, but is Kristaps Porzingis going to be there come mid to late June?
You did.
Because he is the X factor in this team. What he does, they went out and acquired him to beat teams like the Miami Heat because he could rise up and shoot above the smaller guards. Rob Williams was in his role, great player on the defensive end, but offensively got stuck, and they knew how to exploit what he can do. It's always been, what can Kristaps Porzingis do for you? What does he bring to the table? But it's, how does his team play without him? And the scariest part of all for me, it was a non-contact injury. We saw him tweak his left ankle to play before on Tyler Hero's foot.
He rolled
but then simply just trying to put the ball on the floor and begin some action, tweaked his right ankle, and it was the reaction for me that scared me the most. Pulling the jersey above his face.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's seen a lot of basketball, experienced a lot, being at the pinnacle, playing in the Mecca in New York, carrying that weight on his shoulders, and he didn't work out there. And that's fine. He had to get mature. But I think he's going to be optimistic because that's all he knows how to be right now. But in reality, it just doesn't look good for Kristaps Porzingis.
And you said it too. Both legs already taped up before all
Left
this
leg
happened.
looked like he was dealing with something.
It did. Look, this is probably not the appropriate time for me to say this after a game when this guy walks out with a walking boot on his right foot. his right leg. But look, I mean, we've already seen this season. Cornette has to step up. Tillman has to step up. You're going to need more minutes from old man Al Horford. I still think the answer to your question that you asked there in your soliloquy, which was great, was can you win a championship because Kristaps Porzingis is healthy in late May and June? And I still think the answer is yes. You need these other guys to step up right now in the interim. He's going to be out. Obviously, he's not going to play the rest of the Heat series. We already know, however long it goes, and we both assume, and we'll get to this, that they get this done in 5. But I don't believe he's going to play in your next series at all, whether it's the Cavs, whether it's the Magic. Look, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on Boston, has entered the chat. And, if I were a betting man, which I am, I would bet that he's not going to play next series. You will not see Kristaps Porzingis, in my opinion, until the Eastern Conference Finals. And then we can have this convo because I know what you're going to say, and I agree. What percentage is he?
Yeah.
What Porzingis are we getting? Maybe he's on a pitch count in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know. We don't know. But I am going to assume he's back for that. And then when you need him to be 100% healthy, because even without, let's, for the sake of this conversation, George, say Kristaps Porzingis is held out purposefully of the Eastern Conference Finals to ensure that he's healthy, or maybe he comes back on the back end, depending, what games you get into. You start getting into 5, 6, 7 here, maybe you need him back. So let's say you get him back late or not at all for the Eastern Conference Finals. You must have him for the finals. I still believe as though you will. I believe Kristaps Porzingis, for what the Celtics are trying to accomplish here and winning the title, I do think he'll be back healthy, George. Yeah. Keyword, I think he'll be back healthy in time for you to make your NBA Finals push.
It's a how healthy for me, but I agree. I mean, at best, and the Celtics should, coming back home, they're lucky they're coming back home, close out this series on Wednesday. And then the Cavs Magic, at best for them, that series wraps up Friday. You will see the Celtics on the floor again the following Monday, May 6th.
5 more times.
That's a full week for Porzingis.
Yep.
But I agree. He's not playing this upcoming series. Cavs Magic, those are teams you can handle.
Yes.
Take them down in 5 at 6 at worst. You're drawing the New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson. If they get Mitchell Robinson back, you need him there. But that's a team still they can take down. I think without Porzingis, it's all about who you draw in the finals. But this guy does so much, creates so much from the middle of the post, gets it done defensively as well. And he's been an outlet when Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown aren't getting it done. Kristaps Porzingis is that mismatch nightmare. He's every inch of 7'3". Tonight, they weren't their best. Jason Tatum, 1 shot in the fourth quarter. Derrick White put up 38 points. But it shows how big this cloud is because Derrick White had his career best game. And we haven't even mentioned it until now, getting this far into this podcast. But Kristaps, it's championship or bust with this team. It's not what are you doing in the first round to beat the Heat? What are you going to do to get to the Eastern Conference Finals? No, they were an ankle away from making it back to the finals last year. They were Jason Tatum showing up in the finals, but Steph Curry taking that over 2 years ago. This is a team with the expectations going all in on this roster, bringing in Jrue Holiday, trading for Xavier Tillman at the deadline.
Yeah.
That's a guy that was going to have to play minutes no matter what. But now it's Al Horford looking at Luke Cornette and Xavier Tillman and going, time to step up, fellas. This is what we have to do.
I do want to get to Derrick White because you're right. I mean, career high, amazing game. We'll talk about him. But I will say this. You sort of glossed over it a bit. If you get the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, you should be able to get by them without Porzingis. I would agree with that in totality, but I think you do need them against the Knicks in a
if they get Mitchell Robinson back.
Similar fashion of the Knicks remind me a lot of what the Miami Heat do. Now, their star, Jalen Brunson, is healthy.
Yeah.
We saw with the Heat, Jimmy Butler is not. So you didn't get the full Heat experience. And if Jimmy Butler's healthy in this series and Porzingis gets banged up, right? Maybe you're a little nervous. And we'll see. If the series goes 6, 7 games and the Celtics can't put them away without Porzingis, now all of a sudden the boogeyman maybe does come back in Jimmy Butler. But that's another topic for another Boston has entered the chat. As it pertains to the Knicks, if you do play the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, I do think you need Kristaps Porzingis for the simple fact of you just can't allow a Knicks team, just like you can't allow a Heat team, to believe they got a shot, to smell blood in that water. George, if you don't have them and the Knicks come out and steal game one, or, and Brunson goes crazy, and all of a sudden they're beating their chest like, we're going to take you down, and then now you're in a position where you're rushing Porzingis back, or you're hoping that he gets healthy in time to – now you could be in trouble. I think everyone's comfortable with Kristaps not playing against the Heat. Done. We already know that. And let's just go ahead and punt on this next series with him playing. I think everyone can accept that. Because if you tell me Cavs are Magic without him, most of us can live with that. But when you start talking Eastern Conference Finals, particularly if the matchup is the Knicks, I got to have him, George.
You have Jalen Brunson, who will go in, and we've known that he's elevated every time in the playoffs. He's been that dog that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown strive to be. And by all intents and purposes, too, let's not act like the Celtics going into the Kaseya Center, however the hell you say it in Miami, is going to be the same as going into Madison Square Garden.
Sure.
We've seen Knicks fans take over down in Philly.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hostile environment.
Yep.
This is a team a lot deeper. I'm talking about the New York Knicks here, led by an actual star in Jalen Brunson, because the Heat have done so nice for you to show up, but never had Jimmy Butler, as he was never right after the play-in tournament. The Knicks have everything is, but that's what it looks. What's the down-the-road outlook for this team? And think about it, just in the playoffs alone, he's averaging 20 and 7 on the floor, shooting 52% from the floor overall. And he's a better three-point shooter than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been in this playoffs.
Wow.
This is a guy catch and shoot off three. You leave him open, you're dead. But around the rim, even crowded, I'm talking defender in his face, rises up above and finishes. And he's had those clutch plays late in games to make plays that only he can make. This team relies a ton on him. And defensively, that's what they bring it. But it's the tax on his body. Both ends of the floor.
No doubt.
Can you be top 5 offensively? Can you be top 5 on the defense? And there is the wear and tear. They've managed KP all season long, too. We saw them resting him, and I was all for that. I don't care that he's missing a random game in February. I don't care when seeding was up in the air. It never really was with the Celtics.
Right.
But even getting ready in March, into late March, early April, that he wasn't playing. Get him right for the playoffs. But this was, can you rest him enough that his body can hold up? And it was a non-contact injury. That's what scares me. I understand Porzingis being, very optimistic. Joe Mazzulla saying, I haven't got any updates yet. He's not going to say anything until the imaging comes out. But you hear guys like Al Horford where he handily said he was concerned, He's worried about him. And it's, again, a non-contact injury. Just making a simple basketball move. Starting the action was what Porzingis was doing.
It's just so early in the playoffs for this because you're right. I mean, and we both gave the Celtics credit all season long for how they managed Kristaps Porzingis in terms of keeping him healthy. They did a great job, mission accomplished. But, man, this quickly into the postseason, this guy's already banged up. I'll say this, and you spoke to this a bit. Stylistically, he should be just fine because if he does have to play compromised, you could take it. You will lose a lot on the defensive end, to your point. Rim protector, we understand that. But offensively, this is not Giannis we're talking about. When this injury happened with Giannis, it was like, oh, hey, you must get 100% if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo because you play above the rim. Although you've improved at shooting, you're still not a consistent, really good shooter in this league, so you can't rely on your jumper. Kevin Durant, who had the worst of the worst, an Achilles, right? Kristaps Porzingis, calf strain. These are shooters. These are guys where even compromised, you can catch and shoot for me. You can give me something.
Yeah.
But I do believe, hey, Celtics, don't mess around. Get the Heat out of here. Get in this next series without Porzingis and get the Cavs or the Magic out of here and rest. And then you got to hope and pray to the basketball gods that whoever you see in the Eastern Conference Finals, we're assuming for the sake of the combo that it's the Knicks, go through a gauntlet and have some games and have some long series and have some tests and have some battles. And then by the time they get to you, you're ready to go, you're healthy, you're rested, and they have some scars and some wounds on them.
And even matching up with a team like the Heat, you're fine actually playing more up-tempo. You saw the pace completely change without Porzingis in the game. You can run the Heat off the floor. But matching up, if it's the Nuggets in the finals, if it's the Knicks in the ECF, if it's the Timberwolves too, you're comfortable playing a half-court game with them. But if you don't have Kristaps Porzingis, that takes away a key focal point. Now we'll watch Al Horford slide to that spot, creating a lot from the nail in the floor.
Right.
Jason Tatum, too, dictating a ton from the post as well. But that's a complete reshuffle. And that is a point, too, of what he provided in the regular season, his scoring, his shooting, his stretching of the floor. Xavier Tillman was traded for, as that's a guy can you depend on defensively to play minutes. I do believe in that. Luke Cornett, go out, play some minutes, what have you. Al Horford, same thing. But now we see this bench get a lot shorter, and it's the same thing. All right, Porzingis, your body's putting up the first red flag we've seen in this postseason. Al Horford, can your body maintain this level of play for this long?
Sure.
And these many back-to-backs? Good for the Celtics that they were still able to go up 3-1 and should close out the series on Wednesday. But at the same time, they don't drop that game too, which they should not have. If they come out with urgency, tonight would have been the completion of a sweep. That would have been longer rest too. They just can't mess around, and it was because of Porzingis. They cannot mess around and play games they shouldn't or don't have to. When you have someone this important to your team to be so close to being so injury prone. And we saw it not much further in the game too. Jason Tatum tweaked his ankle for a second on Bam Adebayo. We just know the volatility of their championship aspirations hang in the balance of number 0, number 7, and Kristaps Porzingis.
Let's talk about Derrick White, career high, 38 points in game 4. I mean, this guy was sensational. He played more minutes than anyone in the game, 41 minutes. He went 15 of 26 from the field, 8 of 15 from 3. I mean, George, he was filthy McNasty, and the Heat had no answer for him.
22 points in the first half, 6 for 8 from 3, set career highs there. That's D. White, man. Mr. Reliable. You need him to step up. And it was an off night for Brown and Tatum. 4 for 14 in the first half. Jason Tatum disappearing in the fourth quarter as well. We see them. I mean, they go ahead and they combine 20 from Tatum, 17 from Brown, but not a great night from JT. Still had 11 rebounds. But that shows, again, we're talking about with Porzingis going down, but the depth of this team. Derrick White pouring in 38 points himself, and even Al Horford providing some scoring off the bench when you weren't really getting it from anywhere else on the floor. D. White's done it, and he does it both ends of the floor. The backcourt of him and Drew Holiday give them so many options when it comes to matchups defensively on the floor. And as much as I'm one to watch the Knicks, those two in a matchup with Jalen Brunson, where you cut the head off the snake, then it's on Dante DiVincenzo, OJ Anunoby, and Josh Hart. Obviously not the same level. These guys are the difference maker for this team.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Drew Holiday has not given you much here to write home about offensively in this series, but he has been sensational.
But this has been him all season long. He went from a 19-point, 20-point guy with the Bucks winning a chip. He comes in. He is your fourth, maybe fifth best option on offense, and he's fine with that.
Right, yeah. Well, listen, that's what champions do. He comes in, he's going to play whatever role is necessary to get the job done. But again, even though you're not getting it from him offensively in terms of putting the ball in the basket, what he's doing defensively right now in this series has been fantastic. If you get that from him, and then you talked about the consistency with Derrick White, obviously you're not going to get 38 every night, but certainly he's going to give you offensive consistency. I believe those two, in my opinion, especially now with Porzingis being out, obviously Tatum and Brown are the benchmarks. They're the standards. But I look at Drew Holiday and Derrick White moving forward in this next round as the X factors of the series, whether it's the Magic or the Cavs, because you're going to need an uptick from both going against those teams with Porzingis out of the lineup.
Uptick on them, uptick from Al Horford. Get bigs off the bench as well. But
I'm saying scoring. Specifically.
I mean, you're losing 20 points per game. Right. And that's a guy that can get you 28, 30, more than 30 any night. I mean, we just had the convo yesterday of, do the Celtics need a 40-point score? And I said no, because they have 3 guys that could get you 70 every night.
Right.
All of a sudden that becomes, they have 2 guys that could get you 70 any night, but in reality it's 2 guys that could get you 55 to 60. You need 3 dudes to get you to a certain point. Derrick White can be that extra layer in this offense, but they need someone like Drew Holiday to step up. And it comes from the production too, like a Sam Hauser. You can't have a goose egg coming off the bench and shooting threes as well.
Final word on this quickly. Porzingis comes back healthy. He's good. We're good. We're going to the finals. Yes?
What percentage is he? That's my final word.
Fair enough. All right, George, let's skate to the ice now. Now, last season, Bruins had a 3-1 lead as well, and things went left. We understand that. But Linus Ullmark says that's old news. Yesterday's paper. Take a listen.
Yeah, I don't care about last season. Last season is last season. We're playing Toronto right now. That's our mindset. That's our focus. We don't care about, whatever happened. We stay in the moment. Like I said, we stay in the moment. That's the thing. You can't start focusing on what's going to happen or who you're going to play or whatever. Right now, the most important thing is what we do right now and the opponents that we're going to face tomorrow.
There it is, George, straight from the horse's mouth. Linus Ullmark there. I mean, listen, last season we know Bruins led the series 3-1. We know the end of that story against the Panthers. Here we go now. With that being said, how does this team close out the Maple Leafs? Give me the keys.
Doing it how they've been doing it against the Leafs so far. The difference is, yes, you're in the same situation, up 3-1 in the first round, but the pressure transfers to Toronto in this situation.
Sure.
Keep in mind, last year, that was the greatest regular season team in the history of the NHL. Patrice Bergeron coming back. David Krejci coming back for playing internationally overseas. Guys getting healthy at certain times and returning. A lot of pressure was on the Bruins to get one more cup for Patrice. To piece it together, but that Florida Panthers team was bringing the physicality on the forecheck, bringing the fight to them, and mentally, even down 3-1, going to their practice, because I was a team reporter for the Panthers morning skate that day, before they went from 3-1 to 3-2, and we know what the rest happened. There was lightness to them. Yeah, we're down 3-1, but we go out. We earned this opportunity. We earned this opportunity to go and win 4 straight to beat them. But this pressure for the Leafs is different. We've seen the Bruins come out, be the more physical team, bring the fight to them, be more well-coached, and obviously have the huge upper hand in the net. Sergei Bobrovsky kind of did his thing to steal that series last year.
Right.
And think about last year, too, where Jim Montgomery stuck with Linus Ullmark too long before finally putting in Jeremy Swayman, but it was all but lost with momentum in the series and all that. This year they went rotation. Then, of course, you went Swayman back-to-back. I expect Swayman to be back in there for Game 5 because he's been nails against the Leafs. But more importantly, the Bruins have been running this series. Think about the William Nylander clip we saw where he's looking to his bench and saying, stop crying, bro. This isn't the effing junior hockey. The Leafs are broken. Brad Marchand, the rat, got to them. You have Domi swinging into Swayman, bumping into him, trying to throw him off. Nothing to it. Marchand's been playing great. Jake DeBrusk's been playing great. Both goalies have been nails. This is a completely different series from last year. So that's why I like that Linus points out last year was last year. This is a different team, a different situation. The Bruins are clearly the better team mentally, physically, coaching-wise.
I'll circle back with you about Swayman because you said something that really sort of triggered my radar on that. But you make a great point about the Panthers and being at that morning skate that you were last year because, look, we all know the Panthers last season underachieved. Remember, the season before that, they were the President's Trophy. And then they come back. They kind of underachieve all season. They get hot at the right time, and then they get the Bruins. So that was a sort of a sleeping giant, a team that had laid dormant all year, but you knew, talent-wise, was capable. They had the capabilities of going to the Stanley Cup final, as we saw. Now this season they're playing up to expectations. That wasn't the case with the Maple Leafs this season. I mean, it feels like for a while now this team's been playing at their ceiling. They are what they are. They're a finesse team that wants to get up and down the ice with you, play fast tempo, score a bunch of goals.
Barely got into the playoffs.
This is what they are, and then they choke City. We already know what they are.
But that's the pressure of you have this team with Mitch Marner, with Nylander, with Austin Matthews having a historic season, but this will be their third first-round exit in the last 4 years. And we know what the Leafs, they can't get out of the first round for the life of them. They did it last year, and I said to you after that happened, I go, Leafs next year got over the hump, got that monkey off their back.
We all thought
and they're back where they started.
And that's what I mean.
They're seeing ghosts, and the ghosts are themselves. The Leafs cannot get past the ghosts of Toronto.
I will say this: if this game were in Toronto, I would maybe feel a little, slightly uneasy about it. And one of the reasons, and I've talked about this on this show with you, is look. You got to give them some credit here because they have been playing Boston Bruins hockey. This is not what the Maple Leafs want to do stylistically in this series. And they've done a good job of hanging in there, throwing punches. They don't get knocked out till late in the fight, right?
Yeah.
So if this game was in Toronto, maybe we get a game where Austin Matthews gets a couple goals. maybe they score 4 or 5 goals in that game and win it and extend the series. The fact that it's in Boston, I just think we're going to see more of what we've already seen, to your point, hard-hitting, defensive, whatever goalie's in there, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
You know, I just think Boston sort of in a lot of ways, Anaconda style, just finishes them off and squeezes them out.
There's blood on the ice in TD Garden.
Yes.
And Bruins fans know that. They're going to go for it. And think about the guys, the Brad Marchands, the Coyles, Pasta, Trent
Closers.
Fredericks, Charlie McAvoy, that were on the ice last year when this happened.
Yeah.
They're not going to let it happen again.
Yeah. Okay, now we assume that it's going to be Jeremy Swayman to get the start. He has a hot hand here. But we hear Linus Ullmark saying, hey, we're not thinking about last season. We just have to close out the Toronto Maple Leafs. But he also was asked clearly about, hey, if it is Swayman and you're the backup, you know, where are you at mentally with this if that is the case? And I thought it was interesting what he had to say. Take a listen to this.
You know, there's a reason why I'm here today, and it's not being a sulky little crybaby about not playing or anything like that. You know, I try to stay professional, supporting the guys throughout the team or throughout the period here. We'll go out there every practice, trying to be better, try to push people in the way that I can, obviously, and try to bring that energy and try to do whatever I can when I'm off the side as much as I try to do when I'm in the net.
Okay, so let's react to this. So for the sake of this conversation, you and I feel as though it will be Swayman with the hot hand, okay? We also have learned that we both think the Bruins close this thing out. So let's project forward here.
Yeah.
Is Linus Ullmark going to play again in this playoff run?
Yes, I think so. Because Jim Montgomery, I mean, they went into the playoffs with the rotation. The 1, 3,
Yes, but what if Swayman
5,
stays
same.
hot, George?
Jeremy Swayman against the Leafs, 6-0 so far this season, 6-0-0, 957 save percentage. But look at what he's doing in the series alone. He is 7.8 goals saved above expected in games 1 and 3, 8.5 saves above expected in 3 games so far. He has, when you look at the numbers, Money Puck, 4.18 expected goals against. His goals allowed average is 1.34.
Right.
So he has absolutely dominated the Leafs when you look at the analytics and really dive into the numbers. And Jim Montgomery said, yeah, you know, what went to the decision as we rotated the first 2 games, Swayman played so well, we're going to go with the hot hand. Jeremy Swayman, 2 days off from Game 3 to Game 4, 2 days off from Game 4 to Game 5.
Yeah.
Linus Ullmark will play again because they will rotate, because this is breaking a mold where they alternated starters in the net for 28 straight games. But Jim Montgomery sees confidence in Jeremy Swayman,
Yes.
and he sees what this 2 days rest opportunity it gives. Because keep in mind, Linus Ullmark, at the end of the season, was the better goalie. 6-3-0 record after the All-Star break.
He was.
935 save percentage, while Jeremy Swayman had a 903 save percentage. But Jim Montgomery, it's really goalie Bob on the Bruins coaching staff that sees this and makes his call for Monty. But he says, hot hands
Hot
there.
hand.
He has dominated the Leafs. He's seeing the puck well, and he played phenomenally well. And keep this in mind, they only lost Game 2. That's when Linus started.
Yes.
He had 31 saves
Wasn't
and
his
33
fault.
shots.
It
faced.
was not his
Exactly.
fault. But
so Linus will play again. But I predict you go Jeremy Swayman here in Game 5.
Yes.
It's at home. It's against the Leafs. Extra day of rest.
But we know that.
If you're going with the hot hand,
I'm not asking
Jeremy
that.
Swayman's
I'm not
a hot
asking
hand.
that. I'm asking moving forward, and you answered me. And you and I have disagreed on this from the beginning.
I said
You
stick
said-
rotation.
You said stick the rotation. I said go hot hand. I told you back in Game 2.
But you
Not
don't
that I'm-
have to ride a hot hand all the way to the cup.
I'm not. Why not? Teams have done it all the time.
Because
How many
he hasn't done it.
But George, how many times in the history of the sport have we seen a goalie get hot? Sometimes it's expected,
And that's what you did
Someti-
last year, and that's when the Panthers beat you.
Well, but
you
there
stuck
were,
with Linus too
but
long.
George, you're not telling the full story. There were injury issues with Linus Ullmark
So
last
go with the
season
healthier
as well.
guy then.
Right, but by the time they did that, it was too late in that series. That is not the case. Both of these guys are healthy. How many times have we seen in playoff hockey over and over again? Sometimes expected, sometimes dudes out of nowhere stand on their head, they get hot, boom, you can ride that to a Stanley Cup final. Now, you and I from the beginning, I told you after Game 1, Swayman played well. I said, you got to start him again. You got to stick with the hot hand. You were right. You said they'll go with Ullmark because that's what they've done all year.
And Ullmark played great.
And Ullmark played great, and I'm certainly not blaming him. I will give him props, and I gave him props after Game 2. He was the least of their problems in Game 2. But then you go back to Sway. He does his thing. He has a hot hand. I personally I felt this way at the start of the playoffs. I feel this way now. You stick with Jeremy Swayman until further notice. He has a bad game. Hell, I'm fine with a bad period or two. You go to Allmark. I don't think you have to wait. I don't think you have to commit necessarily to Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah,
I'm fine
that's what I'm for.
I'm fine with making the switch when needed.
Yes.
But as long as Sway is hot, you stick with him. And I would feel the same way about Allmark. If Allmark started game one, looked great, I would say, hey, Sway, chill. Because all the numbers you gave were true. The end of the regular season, I remember talking to you that last month of the regular season for the Bruins.
Linus was the better goalie of the
team. I said, Swayman's got to get his swagger back. What's going on? And he looks fine now. But I'm just saying, George, whoever it is, I don't care. It's not even so much the name. It's just who's hot right now. And right now it's Swayman.
And Swayman's hot right now against the Leafs. When you're facing the Panthers,
the
Canes,
that's
not going to be the Leafs. Those are going to be tougher teams, ones that are known to win at this level, bring the physicality, bring the fight. Completely different
tougher
matchup.
Teams, tougher mentalities, better playoff experience.
Yeah,
but
better coached.
But I'll push back on this. You're playing an elite offense right now. You are going to be peppered with shots. As you have from the Maple Leafs, you're not going to necessarily see better offenses. You will see better collective units. But this offensively, if Swayman can do this and shut down the Leafs offensively, he can shut down anyone, George.
Look, if you ride with Swayman and that's your goalie one and you go with a 2-to-1 rotation, I'm fine with that. But to say you're going to stick with Swayman all the way, if it's worked for you to this point, alternating every game, the last month and a half of the season, because you mismanaged Jeremy Swayman coming back from the All-Star break, and it did work. If you have two great goaltenders, why gamble at this point? You know what you have every day with Jeremy Swayman. You know what you have every day with Linus Ullmark. And if they're good with switching off, and if it works, whatever their mentality may be, whatever may be due for the confidence, whatever they have to do for their body and their recovery, no one knows goaltending. There are certain people in the world that know how to coach it, know how to manage these guys. They are in a class, in a world of their own, goaltenders. Because some of the best coaches in all of hockey, they stay as far away from the goalies as possible and let their goalie coaches handle them. There's so much that goes into that position, more than we can ever comprehend. And if you have your specialist and goalie Bob come up to you and say, go back to Linus at this point, you do it. You listen to it because you have to work these guys. It can't just be check it off. It's Jeremy Swayman rest of the way. You have to do what's best for the team, not what's best for Jeremy Swayman, not what's best for Linus Ullmark, what is best for the Bruins. And if that means rotating them, fine. If it means sticking with one, fine. But it's worked to this point.
Sure.
And even if you, like I said, you see the 2 days off in between, you go, this is what Sway wants, ride with it. Because think even what Linus said. He goes, if I'm not supporting my guy, I'm not supporting the team. If I'm not supporting the team, I'm not supporting him being Jeremy Swayman.
Facts.
You know, it'd be the reverse on the other side, too.
And they're tight. I mean, the goalie hugs are just precious.
Hey, this is the do or die for them. You know, you guys, you love the goalie hugs.
Yeah,
you know, you want to play together. You've said no to trades. Now's the time to do it. And if one guy's getting the call of the other, goalie hug still got to stick.
I tried to do a goalie hug once with George after a show. Our first Boston has entered the chat. But he held the hug a little too long. Like it was that uncomfortable time. It was like 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. He's still hugging me. So we stopped. But it was fresh. Now, let me ask you this. Should the Bruins make any lineup changes? I'm looking at an article here. I mean, it looks like Derek Forbit, Justin Brazo should be available. Are you making any changes? We talked about in net, but in terms of the lineup, are you making any changes?
I say Forbort, no. He's missed almost 2 months due to surgery, and you have what you have established on your blue and line at this point. I think you keep it as such. Justin Brazeau, though, that's interesting. That's a right winger.
Yeah.
Danton Heinen looks like he's not right. He's been getting more rest. Lately, than's been per usual over the course of the regular season. If Brazeau slots back in, now, he missed almost a month with the injury himself, but if he slots back in, that gives Heinen extra rest and gets him right for the later on in the playoffs. I'm fine going Brazeau, but Derek Forbort, I'd stay away. I say no to that.
Listen, I don't want to talk about the Maple Leafs anymore and give them any props. I already said they're hanging in this series with defense, which is shocking to me. But I do want to know, last question on the Leafs. Do you blow up this core group after they lose this series.
Yeah, you have 1 year left of John Tavares and Mitch Marner with their current deals. Now, of course, Austin Matthews is the future. You don't move him. That is the centerpiece of your franchise, the face of your city.
Although you could get the most for him, George.
But you know what? You could still get a big return for Tavares and Marner. And if you trade them or you figure things out, that would save you over $20 million in cap space for next season. Cap will go up in the NHL. Keep that in mind. Because you have to bring toughness in. You have to bring some defense. You have the scoring. You have the finesse. But this core hasn't worked. And also, I'm not putting this only on the players. Sheldon Keefe as a head coach. This will be his third first-round exit in the last 4 years if the Leafs can't come back. Something has to be changed there because we saw no adjustments. We saw them being out-coached, out-physicaled as well.
Sure.
And you need to figure it out in net. I mean, I'd be remiss if I don't say Ilya Samsonov has just been terrible. He's been one of the worst goalies, if not the worst, in the playoffs this year. So there's so much for the Leafs to do. Like I said, last postseason, you finally get past the first round. And then all of a sudden, it's deja vu. It's your worst nightmare once again.
Yeah, listen, you can obviously build around Austin Matthews. I think, the Oil dealt with this similar situation with Connor McDavid out there. How do you build around this guy and win some Stanley Cups? And we'll see.
McDavid changed his game.
He did. He changed his game, and the Oil have done a good job up until this point. We'll see how far they can go this season. Of course, they have a chance to get it done. Look, you also make a good point with some of those one-year deals on the books with their stars. You're not bringing those guys back. So I think you wait till the trade deadline. I mean, obviously their numbers are going to be there. You're not going to get what you would get back for a Matthews, but you can get something. And teams will trade for guys on one-year deals, rentals, that they feel as though they're close and they just need another player or two to get them over the hump. Jake Gensel comes to mind, right,
what the Canes
for
did.
this year at the deadline. So, I look, Toronto's got to – they do have to blow it up. And I agree with you, too. Go more defensive, go tough, build around Austin Matthews in that way.
And pursue a real goaltender.
Oh, my God. A real defense and a real goaltender. And then put whoever around Austin Matthews. He's going to elevate them, and he's going to do what Austin Matthews does, which is put the biscuit in the basket.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to Bruins Mount Rushmore, because how this came up was obviously we saw Marchie become the Bruins' all-time playoff goal leader now with 56. So I wanted to ask, what is your Bruins all-time playoff Mount Rushmore? Obviously, Brad Marchand has got to be on this. So let's not even argue, because we'll probably argue over our other picks. Let's both put him right now on the Mount Rushmore. We agree?
Won Stanley Cup, 56 goals, leads a franchise. You see that passion, that fight in him, that dog in him for 15 years. Yeah, he's on there.
All right. Let's do this together. Bobby Orr.
I don't have him on mine, but you'll hear why.
Come on, bro.
I know there's not a lot of cups on my Mount Rushmore, but for the sake of a good podcast, I have Cam Neely there.
Wait, what? What did you say? There's not a lot of cups on your Mount Rushmore for Bruins playoffs?
Cam Neely, 87 points in 86 games played in the playoffs. If not for injuries, he probably would have broke through and gotten his. One of the premier scorers. Scored 50 goals in 49 games at one point.
Can I get vodka in this instead of water?
87 points in 86 games. So I'm just saying.
Give me your Mount Rushmore at this point.
So I go Brad Marchand, Cam Neely, Ray Bourque, 161 points in 180 playoff games. Was one of the best players of all time, obviously. Just never had the investment around him. And then, look, he goes to Colorado and gets one. Then last, because I do value cups, Dick Clapper.
Oh, my God.
3 Stanley Cups, all with the Bruins. You go through all the Bruins Stanley Cups, you'll see Dick Clapper's name the most for out of all the players. And he had 4 goals in 6 games in 1929 when they won it. 5 points in 11 games in 1941. Don't sleep on Aubrey Dick Clapper on your Mount Rushmore. I got Dick Clapper on mine.
The words and the views of George Balekji do not reflect those of Travis Thomas or Boston has entered the chat.
Dick Clapper.
Look, give me Brad Marchand. Bobby Orr, I don't know, call me crazy. Greatest hockey player arguably of all time. Give me Bobby Orr.
Reinvented the game.
I mean, I don't know, call me crazy.
But
Give
Dick
me
Clapper,
Bobby Orr.
Dick Clapper with
Give
the
me
3
Brad
cups.
Marchand. Give me Phil Esposito, anybody.
I'm a big fan
Phil
of
Esposito for 500 in the Daily Double. And Patrice Bergeron. Ever heard of him?
Yeah, that's fine. He was
it's fine.
He was there
My
with Brad
Mount Rushmore's
Marchand
just
for
fine.
3 Stanley Cup runs.
Oh, my God.
You just, the guy that's won the most Stanley Cups for the Bruins with 3. And Dick Clapper is not on your Mount Rushmore.
I need a drink. I mean, what time? Is it too early? It's happy hour somewhere, isn't it?
You don't remember that 1929 run?
No,
to the Cup?
I don't.
6 games played. He only played 6 games.
You remember that?
I guess they played 6 games in 1929 to win the Stanley Cup.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah, I was there.
Congratulations,
Wearing my
man.
Dick Clapper jersey.
Okay, please stop saying that. Please. Don't you have a show to tell us about?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Make sure to check out the premiere of 310 to Left on our YouTube page, Nesson.com, Facebook, wherever you like to watch your podcast. It's TC joined by the architect of the 2 first World Series runs of this century for the Red Sox, Theo Epstein, back with FSG, the architect behind those for the Red Sox. Tom Caron, Theo Epstein, 2 institutions of Red Sox baseball here in Boston. Full convo up right now on Nesson's YouTube page. Check it out, 310 to Left.
Okay, I mean, listen, you don't have Bobby Orr on your Mount Rushmore. I have to imagine you have Tom Brady on yours somewhere because the Tom Brady, the greatest roast of all time, Tom Brady live Netflix special is on this Sunday. The confirmed roasters here. Host, Kevin Hart, comedian Jeff Ross. The list goes on. Randy Moss, Julian Edelman, Drew Bledsoe, Gronk, Bill Belichick, Ben Affleck, listed as probable game time decision there for Ben Affleck. Maybe J-Lo makes an appearance here. Listen, are you looking forward to this or what?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, think of the collection of people. Most of all, Bill Belichick being amongst the roasters. I mean, what's going to be great is you'll hear at the end the praise that Belichick will have for Brady.
Sure.
Because roasts always
course.
start off brutal. Then at the end, everyone says their praises for him, and then Tom Brady will get to tee off.
Right.
But for that back and forth between Tom Brady, the greatest football player of all time, and Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, and hearing Belichick and his humor shine through. I mean, from the draft coverage you did with Pat McAfee, he was smiling, laughing, did a great job as an
Different
analyst
dude.
in that role.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? He's saying, if I'm going to do this, F it, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for Bill Belichick and the stories he'll tell. You know what, though? Randy Moss. That's the one I look forward to. He's an elite storyteller.
Yeah. Country as
Yeah,
hell.
exactly. In that accent, I think
Yeah.
it'll be good. Julian Edelman will probably be the drunkest person there, like barely like eyes open. I think Drew Bledsoe will be great because he's the biggest joke in the room.
Yeah.
He could just make spleen jokes all night long. And he probably will go off on Belichick and Brady himself, too. So
You think Edelman will be drunker than Gronk?
yeah.
Yeah?
Edelman, like you could tell just Edelman, he looks like he just gets after it every night. Gronk will just be like, that'll be Gronk the whole time and like smash a bunch of stuff.
Wait. Time out.
Come on, it sounds like
Give
sounds
me
like
the
Gronk.
Gronk one more time. I love how they took ISO cam for it, too. It was even more Gronkish. It was beautiful.
I'm just saying and all that. But I think Bill Belichick, that's the one I look forward to the most, of course. But the stories he'll tell, the jokes he'll make on Brady.
Sure.
And everything he's going to get back, too.
You know what's interesting, man, is like I'm not a big roast guy. I never watch those. I'm never really into those. I have friends who have had roast for themselves with all the boys come over and do that. It's not really my thing. I'll watch this because it's Brady, obviously, and you know we're going to talk about it. We're talking about it leading up, and we're going to talk about it after. But you know what I want to see? The most high-drama thing possible?
I know where this is going.
What if the roast is great, Kevin Hart does a great job, all these players do a great job, and then all of a sudden, at the end, Kevin Hart says, well, Tom, it's going to wrap it up here, but there was one special guest we wanted to surprise you with. No, not via Skype. She's here in person. Giselle, come on out. Everyone's like, oh. Giselle comes out.
It'll get ugly quick.
Gives an impassioned, no, it won't. No, it won't. Gives an impassioned speech about Tom, how great he is, and then drops a mic moment with, Tom, I'm sorry it didn't work out. I want you back. Oh, George, the ratings, the mayhem. Oh, my God, the bedlam. It would be insane. Can you imagine? Love conquers all. What if Giselle comes back and says, Tom, I want you back. Baby, come home. And they hug and they embrace, and that's how you end the roast. Greatest roast of all time. You know it. She knows it. Tom knows it. Love needs it.
And then the Kung Fu instructor comes from the back and kicks Tom in the head. You want that full circle moment. Hollywood ain't going to write a script for you that good. Yeah, come on now. You know.
Do you believe in life after love?
I think that'd be great. I actually I was jotting down who I'd want. Tara Reid.
Oh.
But I'm talking like early 2000s Tara Reid.
Dog, I gave you Giselle
Like Messi.
and Reconciliation. You give me Tara Reid.
Yeah, one of the girls he dated.
Gross. For all of our best content of the day, make sure you follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Travis Thomas, who believes in love. George Balekji, who doesn't. Boston has entered the chat. We'll do it again soon. Peace.
Later, guys.